you're looking for.
If you're looking for unique and colorful women's clothing and jewelry for all ages, you'll love the Joshua Tree Boutique on the Court Square in Princeton. Rhonda Stone, the owner, loves choosing beautiful, unique, and colorful clothing for her shop. Spring-like weather will be here soon to stay. So head on in and see a sneak peek of what's new this year. And while you're there, take advantage of some sale racks. You'll love the savings and the fashions at the Joshua Tree. Be sure to like them on Facebook for updates and photos of fashions at the Joshua Tree Boutique at 110 East Court Square in Princeton.
1580 103.3 WPKY Coffee Talk is on the air. Morning conversations about things of interest to you. If you'd like to be a guest on Coffee Talk, just email us your information at WPKYonline@gmail.com. We're proud to call Caldwell County home. WPKY.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. It is 45 at 8:13, and we're going to get right on into our coffee talk. We've got a bunch of guests this morning, and starting right now with Charles Hiter, the director of the Pennyrile Health Department. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hey, great. I think spring may have finally shown up.
I think it's on its way, right?
It is. It's here. I think it's coming. I think we'll keep a little warm. Hopefully so. I see the buds are popping up and all the daffodils and everything. So
I noticed that. I noticed that a lot of the trees, I'm seeing little, mostly red and pink. So I don't know what trees those are.
The cherries, and I think a lot of the cherry trees are right now. I know while I lived in Japan, this is the time for the cherry blossom festivals and all to be kicking off. So
I see. I think my Bradford pears in the front yard are
the
starting to
Bradford
do
pears
something
are,
too.
yeah.
All right, and so with that, obviously brings some issues for some of us who have those seasonal issues. But
that is, I mean, it's springtime, so like all the animals that hibernate, it's time for us to get outside, and that's a great thing. As I look at it from a health standpoint, from a wellness standpoint, you got to get outside. Make sure you're taking the right precautions, though, as we start to get out. Now it's easy to go out and exercise. For those of us that want to take those New Year's goals that we set to be more active and stuff like that. So now we're going to go outside. We're going to walk more. We're going to run more. We're going to do stuff outside. Well, let's make sure we're taking the right safety steps for that so your health goals aren't sidelined by an accident or an incident. So make sure if you're going at night, I know the time change that we're all messed up on early in the morning. Make sure you're wearing your reflective stuff still. Make sure you're being seen. If you're going out and doing activities, really like right now in the evenings with children or whatever, if you've been out playing in the day, you're getting hot and sweaty, and then all of a sudden the wind kicks up. So don't forget, cold weather injuries are still possible if you're not taking those precautions and being aware of them. The other big one that I know I was talking about yesterday, now's that time to get out into your gardens. And one of the things that, or cleaning up around the house, those of us with our farms, getting out into some of our barns and getting rid of all that winter messes that were piling up or from all these recent storms. Now seems to be a time that we have a lot more people needing tetanus shots and stuff like that, getting cut on metal or stepping on a rake or something that wasn't out there because you're just out trying to do stuff. It just happens. So make sure that you have your immunizations up to date. If you do get step on some metal, get cut with some metal, go get it checked. Make sure you have a recent tetanus booster. Let's just avoid these illnesses that can be reduced by having the right protection through immunization or a medicine or whatever.
You know, I know that I immunize my horses yearly, and a tetanus booster is one of the things they get. Are we supposed to do that? Are we supposed to get tetanus boosters?
Tetanus, you do get boosters, but they're not annually. Tetanus is usually one of those every 10-year things now. It changes depending on who you're talking to. Tetanus can be one of those every 5 to 10 years. The other about a month or so ago, I was out putting some new sideboards up on my barn on a new stall I'd put up, and it was muddy, so I'd laid some boards down so I could stand on the boards instead of sinking up to my ankles, and one of those boards had a nail through it, and stepped right on it, right through the rubber boot I was wearing.
Ouch.
I wasn't wearing my
Ouch.
good boots. I was just wearing rubber muck boots, and I mean, I didn't know when the last time I had a tetanus shot was. That's one of those that normally we don't put on shot records.
I was just going to say, and
So
we don't
if
even,
you-
I never think,
So
hey,
if you
it's time
can't
for my tetanus
remember,
booster.
that's right. If you can't remember, then it's probably good to just go ahead and get it.
I know when you go to the hospital for something, that's kind of one of, like, always on the list somehow. They always ask you, when was the last time you had a tetanus shot? Psh, I don't know. Never. I don't know.
Which is a good thing, because usually you only get it when it's at a prescribed rate as a kid or as a teenager type kind of thing, or when you get cut with something metal.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. Well, so there's that.
You got the spring going on. Oh, this month, big awareness month, it sort of ties with our springtime activities, is March 26th is Prediabetes Awareness Day. And Prediabetes Awareness Day is just one of those days that they stick on the calendar, since Diabetes Awareness Month is October or November.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a day that we just want you to think about, what do you have, what's in it for you? And I think the theme this year is right along those lines of what's in it for you. Start thinking about it. Don't forget about it and only think about it once a year. Let's try and think about it twice a year. And so you think about it. With someone with diabetes, especially in a type 2 diabetes, late onset as an adult, it does start to impact your life. It could, if you get diabetes, could go up to affecting and having dialysis, amputations. I mean, very severe issues. But you get restricted on what you can do. So as you think about it for yourself and pre-diabetes piece, what's in it for you? Let's eat healthy. Make sure we're looking at the right fruits and vegetables, lowering the sugar content, exercising, controlling the obesity piece, but also making sure your body is flushing and moving and getting all of your systems working together in order to be successful in being healthy. Consider what is your family history. Do you have a family history that is prone to having diabetes type 2 at late onset? That's something you need to be aware of. And if you do, then you just need to be more aware now. Take March 26th as a day to remember, do I need to go see my doctor and ask for a screening assessment and see where you're at right now? And then whatever those numbers are, whatever your regular fasting glucose or your A1C, that 3-month average is, what can you do to make it better, to make sure you stay in the optimal zone?
For diabetes, is that something that you can get even if you live a healthy lifestyle, even if you live, I don't know much about it, I don't have much experience with it, but even if we're exercising and eating properly, are we still at risk?
Yes.
Is that something we need
yes,
to
and that's why you need to look at family history. Some people have a family history that just makes them predisposed to later on in life having a late onset type 2 diabetes. Diet and exercise, healthy living does have and helps in preventing it, but diabetes is also one of those where you look at some people that are extremely obese, very sedentary in their lifestyles, and don't get it. So it's multiple factors, alcohol usage and stuff like that. All of those are related.
That's a recurring theme to, eat healthy and exercise. I don't know how many times, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. I mean, eat healthy and exercise. That's the answer. Eat
That's
healthy
right.
and exercise.
But eat healthy and exercise, as our nutritionist and diabetes educator in the health department say, that doesn't mean you can't have cake, you can't have donuts. It does mean that everything in moderation and in controlled knowledge. I mean, if you do one thing, what do you have to do to offset?
Yeah, and that's the problem. One donut isn't enough. One slice of cake, that's not enough.
But
doesn't.
you can have 2 slices of cake.
Okay.
Tomorrow you may not have any.
Okay. All right. So you got to balance it out.
You got to balance it out.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But as we're talking about those what healthy things to do, right, got to bring it up, and I know it was in the legislative session as we looked at the youth, tobacco. Mm-hmm. Smoking and tobacco, vaping and Juuls, all bad things for our health, all things that we in our health department offer freedom from smoking classes. We also promote the online freedom from smoking programs that are out there. We help people get connected with those. I'm a firm believer if you're going to go through one of those things, have a partner with it. Trigg County just recently had one of our freedom from smoking classes down there. Had a great return on that, I say, investment. 3 ladies came out at the end of it, 8-week class that we do, and 3 of them came out of it smoke-free. They at the time, I mean, they had stopped smoking. They're still working through it. I mean, they were about 3 weeks smoke-free at that time. At the end of the class, it gradually goes in. It's not day one you stop smoking. It is a point in the class that you stop smoking, and that is one of the biggest things. Not only that helps your life. If you're young and you're smoking, let's get you stopped now, because at 15 years, your risks of those cardiovascular diseases that are associated with smoking, 15 years after you stop, you're like a normal person.
Really? Okay.
I mean, your body re-heals.
Okay.
Or heals itself.
See,
and so that's that thing. If you're a smoker, you're not done for life. But if you wait too late to stop, you're not giving your body the time it needs to recover. So, young, and then there's the other aspect. What about your family members, your loved ones, your friends? You care about them. So your secondhand smoke impacts of them and their family members. It's a true problem. It is a true problem. And then you look broader at the communities, and that's where a lot of our tobacco laws and all right now are also focused on smoke-free communities, smoke-free cities, counties, or even just smaller microcosms of schools and school grounds and stuff like that. It's not just smoke-free, though, that we're looking at. We're looking at the whole tobacco aspect. The hazards, I mean, the cancer issues. I think a lot of us can always remember those pictures that are out there of the person that chewed or dipped and their jaw that's all rotted away. There's that aspect of it. But then there's the nicotine that is in these tobacco. And there's a reason we like it. I mean, why do you ask a lot of people? I was in the Army for over 20 years, a lot of infantry and all these people in the field that chew and stuff like that. And it helps wake them up. It gives them an energy. It gives them a spike. It's playing with your mind. And that gives you it pumps you up. It wakes you up. It gets you going. Well, that's becomes addictive. It's like all of us picking up our cups of coffee in the morning to get going, or your Mountain Dews or whatever. It's an addiction. And those addictions to nicotine, the things that are in the cigarettes, are are what harm you. So that's why I've been pushing, working with the Coalition for Healthy Kentucky or Smoke-Free Kentucky on even the vaping and the jewels that are out there now, getting them away from kids, and how harmful the targeted selling of flavored vaping oil flavors or jewel flavors of cotton candy. I mean, what adult? I mean, yes, I enjoy having my cotton candy as well, but want to walk around blowing cotton candy smoke wherever they're going because they're using a device that has a purpose. Remember back 15 years or so ago, vaping oils, the e-cigarette concept, came out and was promoted as a quit smoking tool. And now it's become an industry, a substitute that still has nicotine in it. So,
and I've seen that a lot. People, oh, I quit smoking. I stopped smoking, 5 years ago or, whatever it was. But they're still, sucking away every 5 minutes on that vape thing. And I'm like, how is that, the same? I mean, how is that different? How are you healed right now?
That's right. And what you may be helping yourself in some areas, but because some of the carcinogenics from tobacco smoke went away when they purify it down to near straight nicotine coming into your system and doing damage to other parts of your body. Some of it, again, we still don't know. I mean, you have nicotine levels in some of our e-cigarette systems or quote-unquote substitutions or replacements that are higher than normal cigarettes. And so what harm and damage is that doing, not just to adults, but to youth? And that's the big issue now, is the youth that are getting them. Our brains don't stop growing and processing till we're somewhere between 18 and 21 years old. And some people would say for most boys it's probably until they're 50 or 55 years old.
Right.
So why do we want to stick something in our bodies that's going to shorten that or extend the need to growth because we're putting inhibitors into our system while we're young? Right.
And I don't really understand how the vaping companies, I mean, what marketing person, let's say, decided, hey, let's make this good, let's market this to kids. I don't understand where that started and how why we even allowed that. I don't understand why we allow kids to even purchase those.
Well, and that's the way the law's at right now. And where they're pushing for the legal changes to raise the age of purchase to make it something harder, more difficult, for youth to get their hands on. Mm-hmm. Now, am I saying any vaping company out there, the Juul company or whatever, is actually have some marketing guy over there saying, all right, so for the 14 to 16-year-olds, we need to make it this color? No. However, not on their strategic plan. I am sure they're not publishing that on their strategic plan.
Right. But the products speak for themselves.
But it's out. Exactly.
Somebody had to say, this is going to be for that age group.
And flavored tobaccos aren't new. I mean, we know that. I mean, our chews, our dips, our snuffs and all have always been flavored. The Middle East, when I was over in the Middle East, I mean, you'd get your hookah pipes, your water pipes, and at any restaurant that you'd go in, they'd bring you out your hookah, and you'd say, I want apple or I want cherry. You get all those different flavored tobaccos that they would stick on the hookah, and you'd have that. Again, someone would say, well, it's safe. You're not smoking it. It's a water pipe. No, you're getting all the other stuff. In fact, water pipes have an increased effect on getting some of those carcinogenics because of the way it works. So flavored tobaccos aren't new. but we've gone beyond the apple, the mint, cherry flavors, and looks a little suspect when you start getting into these others.
Sure. Charles, we could have, we kind of zipped through these subjects, and we could, go on, I think, for a while. But let's back up for just a minute to the getting outdoors. And you talked about safety in terms of nighttime,
right.
reflecting. What other kinds of safety things do we need to keep in mind as we're, deciding that, okay, I've put off that New Year's resolution long enough, I'm going to go run right now?
Number one, hydration.
Okay.
Number one, hydration. Make sure you're drinking that water. Sports drinks are good to replace your salts and other nutrients and stuff that you lose. However, you need to split them. A regular Gatorade or Powerade or any of those sports drinks you buy, if you look at a serving, split that serving in half. So if you get a regular bottle of Gatorade, one of the 19, 20-ounce bottles, I think most of those are 2 servings anyways. So you can make 4 water bottles out of that because of the sugar intake of those. So there's so much sugar in a lot of our sports drinks that you can split them in half and still receive the refreshing aspect from the sports drink. So that's number one. Make sure you're hydrating. Number 2, take a second and stretch. Make sure you don't overdo yourself as you're stretching. Don't hurt yourself and then set yourself back, lose your motivation and stuff like that. Number 3, and maybe the most important for most of us, if you haven't already done it, is go see your doctor and make sure you don't have anything that would cause you to injure yourself or have something worse happen. I mean, a heart attack, stroke, or something like that. I don't know, it sounds drastic, but those things don't just happen to old people nowadays. They're happening to youth. A couple weeks ago, up at a cheerleader, I think, at Fort Thomas, Highlands area, up in northern Kentucky, was at a tournament in Indiana, Ohio, and had a heart attack. So it happens at all ages. Some people just have family issues or whatever going on. So I know right now I took my kids to get their sports physicals. Our timing just hits, though. It's the middle of March, and when you got kids doing spring and fall sports, you end up, for the schools, you end up having to get those updated every year. So go by, see a doctor, stay hydrated, stay seen, reflective clothes, lightweight, light-colored clothes during the day, white. I like my bright yellows or bright oranges when out running and stuff like that, but make sure you're being visible. If you do get hurt, rest and go see a doctor. Just make sure you're okay.
Yeah, that's where I kind of have a hard time. I get hurt. I'm like, just push through it. Just keep going. No, you really need to take a break.
You need to, especially at this time of transition, because unfortunately what happens for many of us when we do injure ourselves is that becomes a setback to where it just gets worse, and then we lose motivation, and then we end up stopping it all, and then we got to start fresh all again next year. Sure. And that's just not what we need to do.
And when you do, I have found from experience, when I push through and keep going, I set myself back further than if I'd have just rested. Because ultimately I'm going to end up having to rest.
At some point you're going to end up having to rest because it gets so bad anyways. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So stay motivated. Remember, life is a marathon, not a sprint. And then just go through it and go through it smart.
Charles, I appreciate you coming in. One more question I have. Do you have any programs at the health department that, can help people getting started in trying to get an exercise and diet plan going? Right.
We do not have a fitness program focused on that. However, we do have our nutritionist on staff that if you contact the local health department, you can see them, any of our centers in any other counties, we can get you an appointment with our nutritionist. Tell them you need to talk about setting up a healthy diet, and we can work with you on that.
All right. Charles Hiter-Pennyrile Health Department. Anything else you want to say before?
Well, thank you, and enjoy this wonderful weather this weekend. Let's get out and have fun, but be healthy. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We've got some college girls coming up. I think one of them is going to remain silent. But the other one's going to talk to us about the National Wildlife Society, the chapter at Murray State University. We'll be right back.
Who's a sweetheart? Who's Auntie Sprintern's pal? You are. Oh, Donna, he's so cute.
Thanks, isn't he? Ugh, I wish